Growth 201. Why the 201 is because I consider Agency Growth 101 to be the admin versus downline. We do a webinar, we've done a recording, and we have a training on what's it like when you add administrative staff, what's it like when you add downline, because those are kind of the top ways to grow your agency. So we are going to be focusing on that a little bit today, but it's going to be much more in depth, talking about what does it look like? How do you recruit those? How do you keep them happy? How do you build your agency via administrative staff and via downline? I will say this conversation today is going to be very general. And I say that because I started, in my career at Senior Marketing Specialist, a big portion of my career was business coaching and analytics, which was how do you grow your agency? That's what I spent many, many years doing here. And I will tell you, there's been very few times where two growth plans looked the same.
Right.
Yep. It depends on what your goals are, how long you're staying in your agency, what's your method of style, what does your client base look like. So these are very general outlines of what growth can look like, but in order to really know how can I get my agency, me in Shelbyville, Missouri, or me in Miami, Florida, how do I get my agency to the next level? That is more of a personal conversation that our agent resources team would be thrilled to have with you today. Okay, beautiful. So really, when it comes down to agency growth, we recommend really 3 ways of growing your agency. There's so many different ways of doing this, but in generality speaking, there's 3 most common ways of growing your agency. Number 1 will be one that we spend a little time on today, definitely not the majority of today's training, adding a product line. Very overlooked, however, the fastest, easiest, and most cost-effective way of growing your agency in a little amount of time.
That one is, like you said, it's a little overlooked, and I won't get into it too much, but sometimes people think that if they want to grow their business, their automatic first move is to hire someone on. But one, you don't want to run into a problem where those people don't have enough to do, which can happen if you don't have enough going on in your business. So you want to make sure that you're considering, before adding on people, considering, is there more product lines that I can offer? Is there more things that I can offer my clients?
What's interesting, big changes don't have to come from big moves.
Right.
Big, what's the word I'm looking? Big outlooks. We'll talk about it here in a second, but big results don't have to come from big changes. Next, the next thing we'll talk about today is adding downline. What does that look like? Just really briefly, we'll talk about this in depth, but adding downline is a 1 step back, 2 steps forward outlook, and just making sure you're prepared for that. The last thing we're going to talk about today is adding an administrative team. There's a lot of investment, but you have a lot of control with that. So again, a lot of it is talking about what are your goals as an agency owner. There are other ways to grow, obviously. I always put on here prospecting and marketing opportunities. We have so many trainings on that and how to take advantage of that, but just know that is an additional way to grow that is a little less out of your control. These 3 things are 3 things that you do have a significant amount of control in. So let's start off with adding a new product line. Again, the least amount of time today will be spent on adding a new product line, but it is by far the easiest, most cost-effective, best way to grow your business. First of all, just remember your prospect, or your best prospect, is your current book of business.
Yes, there's no client acquisition cost whenever it comes to selling to the people that you already have on your books. That's one reason why it's the easiest, most cost effective. You're just gaining money. You're not spending money to get them on the books for the very first time. So that's one big way, just cost effective.
It's extremely cost effective. Other than that, again, what's the biggest thing to overcome when it comes to sales is building that relationship and building that trust. You already have a relationship and already have the trust of that consumer. So that major wall you have to overcome is almost completely eliminated if you've done your job correctly. This is also a way to turn policyholders into clients. And this is where I ask agents to really be honest with yourself. If your book of business, or if a person that you consider a client has a policy with you, and I would consider Medicare supplements and PVP as one, they have one solution with you, they're not a client. Those are a policyholders. There's little to no loyalty with that. You've done little to nothing to actually support them and on their entire risk factors. So this is the best way to turn help you with retention, and turn those policyholders into clients.
Well, if they only have one product line, there's nothing really grounding them to you. That's pretty easy to move. But if they have more than one policy, there's more lines there. It's a little more inconvenient to leave.
That's a good point.
And you're offering them a lot more. Why would they want to leave?
Right.
So that's why it's more clients versus just a policy holder.
Very good point. The next thing is that we're going to talk about is how to actually reach out to these individuals. So anybody here familiar with AMP, Agent Marketing Portfolio? It is a program that Senior Marketing Specialist offers. They are CMS compliant pieces that you can use that are going to promote things like dental, vision, hearing, home health care, final expense, hospital indemnity. But they're pieces that are branded towards you, have your information on them. They're gorgeous, and they are designed to help keep you in contact with your current book of business and allow your current book of business to know what you offer. It is by far the best way to get more appointments, how to market to your book of business. This gets you more appointments. I will say my favorite thing, again, like I mentioned, I spent a lot of my time here in my career business coaching and business analytics. And you would be surprised how many times I'll talk to somebody, they say, I need to grow, I need to grow, I need to do this quickly, I have these big ambitions. And I'll say, okay, perfect. You know, and maybe they're joining Medicare for the first time, or they've done other lines of business. And I say, well, what's your size of business right now? What's your book of business? And more times than not, it's a significant book of business, 300 plus people. And I say, well, why? And they're asking you for leads. You don't need leads.
No.
You don't need leads. At that point in your career, when you have that much book of business or that many people in the books, you really shouldn't need to rely on leads to grow your business. Going back, working on that marketing, working on referrals, that at that point, you should not need leads to supplement your book of business.
Yeah, and like going back to the policyholder versus clients, if your entire book of business, that's hundreds and hundreds of people, is mainly just policyholders, that means you have a lot of like fragile relationships with a lot of people.
Fragile relationships.
If you just want
like
to, fragile might be a little dramatic,
no,
but
I'm here for it.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
just it very easily can move on to the next agent that they see. You want to make sure that if you have hundreds and hundreds of people, that they are solidly locked into the relationship that they have with you and that they want to get all their products through you. So that's just kind of rolling it back into our first 2 points. Your best prospects are going to be the people that you already have on the books.
Yes. Now, this is how you make more appointments. This is how you set your calendar and fill up your calendar more, is using AMP. If you're wanting to make sure you just simply get more profit per presentation, better fact finding will help you set up your cross-selling for your appointments. Now, we do have a ton of trainings as well on our website, as well as our YouTube page, to talk about how to use fact finding in order to cross-sell more business. But just know, AMP is designed to build more appointments. Better fact finding will do the cross-selling for you.
One thing to keep in mind, a lot of people, I won't get into this too much, but a lot of people feel weird about selling to their current book of business, adding on ancillary products and whatnot, because they feel like maybe they're being too salesy or trying to pull too much out of their current book. But the fact is that they will have holes in their coverage one way or another.
Absolutely.
If they only have one policy with you, whether that be PDP in Medicare Advantage or PDP in MedSup or Medicare Advantage. Also, if you're not doing a great job during your fact finding, you actually aren't super aware of the risks that they feel like they have. For example, if you're not doing a good job at fact finding, you might not know that they have a history of cancer in their family and that they might really benefit from having the security of having a cancer policy. So fact finding is huge whenever it comes to adding product lines, because you're able to find out what the risks are that they aren't aware of, and then also finding out what's important to them and being able to help kind of customize it to your clients more.
100%. Set the expectation that you're a holistic agency, and so that they shouldn't be surprised to hear from you, because you're doing your due diligence and checking in on your book of business. If you feel like you're pushy and you feel like you're not, that people would be surprised to hear from you throughout the year, then you're not setting the expectations correctly in your appointments to say, I'm here for you holistically. I'm not just your Medicare person. I am your insurance person. So that, again, we want to spend a little bit of time talking about that, because I know that's not the reason why the majority of you are here. The majority of you here are talking about adding downline and adding admin. What does that look like for your agency? But this is the fastest, most efficient way to take your agency to the next level. So if you haven't done this yet, then the other stuff, the admin and adding downline, are not going to be the most beneficial. Do this first, then add the rest of it.
Yes.
So let's start with adding downline agents. This is where anytime I talk to somebody about, okay, you see growth in your future. What does growth look like? And the first thing they say is, I have a few downline agents. First, I just want to set the expectations correct. Adding downline agents, first you really need to decide, is this the path you really want to go down? Making sure that you know that when you add a downline agent, for every agent you add that year, understand your income will go down because you're putting a significant amount of resources, see, leads, your personal relationship, your time, your training, things like that. A lot of your resources and your needs are going down to support somebody else's. So we on average see the income of an agent go down between $7,000 and $10,000 per new agent they add that year. Now you do eventually can make that up if that agent is successful and you start receiving those overrides. So make sure that when you are ready to add downline agent, you have to understand that your personal sales, how you make money, will decrease, but it is a long-term investment to where you'll eventually be making more income off of the overrides versus your personal selling.
Yes, for sure. Having the right expectations for adding downlines is going to be huge, because if you add someone on and then you don't have the expectation that you're probably going to be losing money the first year, it can be really disheartening. You might feel like there's a lot more wrong with your business than what there really is. There's nothing wrong. You're just having to invest a lot more time and a lot more money, and time is money.
It is.
So yeah, so just make sure you have the right expectation with that.
So when it comes to downline, the first thing that we need to find out, if you decide, yes, I'm okay with taking a backseat to selling and taking more of a coaching role. Yes, I'm okay in investing into other success in order for me to see success. If you're okay with this and you have that right mindset, the next question needs to be, what does your recruitment look like? How do you find these brand new agents, or how do you find people who have already been in the market that maybe require less training? Some things that we do, we work with obviously hundreds and hundreds of agencies across the United States, but we have a lot of our agents do a lot of success actually recruiting the younger demographic. So they go after college fairs, they go after happy hours and things like that. Now the reason why they go after the younger demographic is we see a lot of people having success with hiring people who have zero insurance experience. There's kind of two ways to look at it. Do you want somebody that's going to be zero insurance experience, or do you want somebody that's really experienced? We see a lot of success with the individuals who have zero experience as a downline agent. Yes, they will require a lot more training. They require a lot more hand-holding, and ultimately they're more risk because they require more resources. However, they're much more likely to stay loyal to you, and they're much more, and again, you're teaching them to sell. You don't have to break bad habits. You're teaching them the correct way of selling. You're teaching them to become correct, and you don't have to worry about previous experience clouding what they don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, even financially, I think like the younger generation, especially coming out of college, they, depending on how you're planning on paying them, depending on how you set up that contracting, which we can get into a little bit later, is, you know, they might not be as afraid to work fully commission based if that's how they are, because they don't have a spouse, probably they don't have kids to take care of. They're majority speaking. Yes. So the riskier quote unquote sort of income isn't as big of a deal to them. And then also you're setting them up for a career as well. This is something that they can stay in for a while. And so it might feel a little bit more appealing as well to people fresh out of college.
Now this seems pretty nuanced or pretty interesting to a lot of people, because I think the idea like, I want to hire an agent who's done this before and just comes and works for me. Right. That is a possibility, but understand again, they may require less hand-holding, less training. However, their expectations are going to be very different. You know that they're willing to leave and look for other employment if you don't set the expectations of what they're going to get. So you have to offer more to those individuals. You have to be more appealing to those individuals. Oftentimes we also see that those individuals are more difficult to train, and because you're hiring them for their experience, so they're less likely to tell the way that to represent the brand, your sales style. They're less likely to represent it the way that you want them to, because they're pulling on previous experiences, good or bad. So just keep that in mind. So that's why we do see success with people coming in with prior insurance knowledge to come in and be a sales representative. But just know, we see a lot of agents have really great success by getting people and bringing them into the industry, not just bringing them into their agency, but bringing people into the industry.
This is a really good example of how every business plan and, you know, when it comes to business coaching and all that sort of thing, it looks completely different for different people, because two people with two different personalities, one person might prefer to bring in someone and they don't have to worry about, like, they can just be like, cool, you've done this before. I'm not going to worry about training you that much on how I do it or anything like that. You do it how you want to do it. Another person might be really focused on their brand and might be really focused on that. So that's two different people. And so that's just a really good example of how this is going to look completely different for everybody. So just keep that in mind.
It's like an easy come, easy go.
Yes.
If it's okay, like, I don't really care, and I don't care if you're here, if you're not, experience is great.
Yes.
If you want more control and want to really have an influence on what that person does, start fresh.
Yes.
Brand new.
Yes.
It's also important when it comes to recruitment, making sure there's another line where you see a ton of success and growth, and that is recruiting for succession. And by that, I mean, who is taking over your agency when you're done? Are you going to have a family member, a son or daughter come in and run your agency? Are you selling your agency to somebody? That is, what is your succession plan? Growth can so often come from succession. Doesn't mean that like things have to die down and you leave. Succession means that you're taking your agency to the next level with new people, new blood, new ideas. So if you are recruiting, are you recruiting for succession? Are you recruiting for growth? The next thing, again, when it comes to recruitment is, what are you offering? Really focusing on this, especially if you're working with that younger demographic. It used to be, you know, I love the old advertisements we see for like our agencies that are from the 90s and the 80s. They show pictures of their sports cars, their private jets. They show pictures of their mansions of homes. And now it's, no, not there yet.
Oh, not there yet.
Yeah. It shows mentions of their homes. It shows everything like that. And it's like, you know, this demographic, the Gen Z, the millennials, the income is a perk, but it's not the main motivating factor. So making sure that you're offering the benefits that are important to those people. A lot of times it is the income. More times than not, it's the flexibility, the ability to care for their families and their loved ones, the flexibility of hours. So just making sure that money is a lot, but it may not be the main focus like it was 10, 20 years ago. The next thing I want to focus on when it comes to adding downline agents is, what does that training look like? When you're adding downline agents, my recommendation is always, it used to be kind of like a train by fire. I'm going to throw you an appointment and see how you do. A lot of times that doesn't necessarily work anymore because you're training bad habits. But what also doesn't work is making sure your client or your agent knows everything about everything and then sending them out. So it's a healthy mix between do by learning, do by watching, but there's also a steady mix of studying in there as well. So make sure there's very pointed and heavy hand holding, especially if you're recruiting that younger demographic.
Also keep in mind that different people learn different ways. So this is another way that this is going to be a lot more of a time investment maybe than what you think. Get to know and figure out how these people that are hiring you learn the best. Listen to their feedback. Some people might actually really prefer to be thrown to the fire and then come back and have notes and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Some people might prefer to have a little more information going into it. Sure. So also keep in mind that whenever you're adding downline agents and you're training people, you really are taking the time to invest in them and learn.
Absolutely.
Just so that way the income is better and you're building a more secure relationship with the people that you're hiring, which will also help in the long run.
Absolutely. So we say invest in holistic training, sales training, product training, Medicare training, marketing training, business ownership and business management training, and as well as even leadership training. Whenever people who stay with their agencies or stay even in just employment, they quote one of the top reasons that they stay with a manager or a business in poor conditions longer is because they felt like the management or they felt the business was investing in them personally. So keeping that in mind as well, invest in them holistically, which doesn't just mean sales and Medicare, it means holistic training and holistic care. So keeping that in mind too. Number 3 is, what does the management of those individuals look like? Are you holding them accountable? Are there weekly meetings? Are there weekly trainings? What experts are you bringing in to address that group as well? Kind of going back to that training. Are there ways for opportunity and growth? Are you going to have it to where a person starting out may receive a lower override or lower commissions as they increase to make more sales and things like that? Is there opportunity to make more money or to increase levels or increase that position? So just room for growth is a bigger part of that. And again, consider, how are you motivating the individual? How are you motivating them to move up in that company or move up with their sales opportunity? Oh, okay. And then one more thing, what are you offering a downline? Keep in mind, when somebody becomes a downline agent with you, other recruiting organizations don't care. They're going to continue to get calls from FMOs, continue to get recruited by headhunters, basically saying, whatever you're getting now, we can do better. Note that, again, whenever, in order for you to make money off of a downline agent, you have to be receiving some level of override or a portion of their commission. So they're purchasing you as an owner. If they're giving you money to help them, then they're purchasing your services. So what are you offering that person to convince them that the grass isn't going to be greener elsewhere?
Right.
Things like incentives, like trips, vacations, things like that. We have an agency that does that. They do a huge trip every year that if you produce a certain amount, you qualify for that trip to be paid all expenses. What technology are you offering them? Are you offering them CRMs, phone services? Are you offering them Medicare Center, things like that? Training, additional money. Do you have an administrative team, somebody to where you don't have to worry about calling and checking your book of business? We'll do that for you. Do you have a team that's going to take off a lot of that responsibility off their shoulders? Accountability is huge. Are you giving them accountability for things? Compliance helps. Lead, are you allowing them to use your brand? If they're brand new starting out in the insurance industry and you've had a long-standing reputable brand, can they plug into that for marketing help? So just understand, what is that you're offering that downline, and making sure that you're constantly, like, you have to consistently sell to them because they're getting offers every day to go somewhere else.
Yes, make sure that you are, like she said, make sure that you're communicating everything very clearly. You're communicating all this stuff, especially about your pay. If you're paying them a certain way and you're planning on adding a little bit more as they gain more clients and everything like that, make sure that's crystal clear to them so that they know that it's a long-term plan. They know that all these, extra perks and benefits and stuff like that might not be extra pay. Make sure that they know that they have all the tools that you're offering them. They know where to go for help with certain things. Just make sure you're crystal clear about all of that stuff as well.
And then the last thing is, and all of this, it goes into retention. Especially if you're doing a heavy hand in that first year, you're going to lose income that first year you bring on agents. If you're doing the training, if you're doing the management, then just making sure that you have a plan to make sure that people can grow within your organization for that retention. They'll always get calls. They understand that they are not making a high of an income as they would if they were, quote unquote, independent. So just making sure that you're consistently selling yourself and consistently selling the agency.
Yeah, for sure. And then just in general, to wrap it up, well, I guess you probably have extra things to add, but just remember that all of this being said, it is a long-term investment for not just you, it is also a long-term investment for them as well. So just keep all of that in mind as you think about adding a downline agent.
So I actually peeked at your notes and you had on there LOA versus sub-agent. And so I do want to address there's two types of contract. There's license-only agency. This is two types of downline contracts. License-only agent and sub-agent. A license-only agent means that agent writes the business. However, they do not own that agent, that book of business, and they do not own the commissions on that. All commissions are paid to the agency, and all servicing rights are for the agency. Sub-agent means that, and again, for LOA, the agency is responsible for paying the agent. Sub-agent means that agent owns the business, and that agent receives commissions from the carrier, but the upline would receive an override on that business. So if you're somebody, we see agencies that do both. If you're starting out and you don't have the manpower or the administrative staff to track commissions and pay commissions, you might want to go sub-agent. It's a lot less upfront work and is a lot more easy to manage. However, if that sub-agent ever leaves you, you don't own that business. You will continue to receive an override, but that agent can leave with next to no consequences on the eyes of the carrier. An LOA agent requires more upfront work. You have to work on accounting and make sure you're paying your people. You have much more involvement in that. However, that book of business is owned by you. So if that LOA agent leaves, you still keep those commissions. So just keep that in mind. It's also very important when you are working with the carriers, understand that when you're working with adding downline agents, understand that carriers do little to nothing to help strengthen or weaken the relationship between the agent and the downline. So if you do have anytime you are adding downline agents, I do strongly recommend you come up with an agency agreement. That agency agreement needs to have things like non-competes, rules about what happens if there are chargebacks, needs to have rules and regulations defined by complaints and everything like that. So if you're interested in looking what an agency agreement can look like, we've made mock ones that you can take a look at. We'd be happy to show you. But again, don't rely on the carrier contracting to solidify the relationship between you and your downline. Terry, what a great question. If I can afford, should I buy an existing agency? It depends, man. It depends. Buying an existing agency is always a very quick way to kind of start. It's a great jump start to an agency if you can afford it. However, there's so much that goes into buying an agency. I'd like to talk more about this. I want to be conscious of everybody's time, but when you buy an agency, it depends on, was that agency set up as an individual or were they set up as a corporation? Will you be able to buy the writing rights, or will you be able to buy just the commissions? Was it Medicare Supplement versus Medicare Advantage? Because that's going to change the value of that business. How many policies per client do they have? So Terry, if you're interested in buying a book of business, call us. We literally have an entire department called Book of Business that goes into all of that with you. And we even have our new division called Acquisition Pathways. So we help with succession and purchasing of agencies. Call us.
Yes.
That is adding downline. I know we're already 30 minutes into today's presentation. I hate long webinars because nobody wants to talk this much. But let's go ahead and jump into adding administrative staff. And what does growth look like when you add administrative staff? Number one, when should you consider adding downline to your team? The rule of thumb is when you find yourself much more busy than you are productive. When you are basically doing, checking your book of business, running your Facebook pages or social media, writing your marketing, things like that, and you find yourself like, I can't figure out when do I fit in another appointment, that is whenever you need to add your admin. If I put numbers to it, we see that around 300 clients. At 300 clients, it's time to add the admin. And if you do it correctly, and what basically you want to make sure, how can I get my admin to pay for themselves? If you are doing less busy work, you can take on more appointments, do more cross-selling activities, they will pay for themselves.
Yes, keep in mind whenever you're adding admin staff, these are people that will take over the thing. They won't have a license. Let's just say in general, they will be doing things that don't require a license. Some of them might have their license. Sometimes they do, so that way they can help out with that sort of stuff. But this is an employee that you can add on that allows you to be able to focus on you still selling yourself.
For sure.
Rather than you having to take a step back from selling, like maybe you would with adding a downline.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And that's kind of what we talk about in the next point. We'll get to that here in a second, but I do want to make sure we know right now, hiring looks different than it has ever before. In fact, we've seen most industries have seen at on average a 40% turnover in their employees, and that's become something called the Great Resignation. More people than ever are looking for new jobs right now, so it should be relatively easy to find people looking for employment but on the other hand, more people have quit recently since 2020 than any other organization. So again, a lot of reasons why people are leaving their workforces or looking for their jobs is ability to work remote, flexible hours, and benefits on healthcare, vacation, family time, which is very interesting. In fact, I actually just was listening. Let me see. I actually just got some really interesting facts about this. What's causing the Great Resignation? Number one is retirement. More baby boomers are leaving than ever before. So there's a lot of job opportunities because more people are retiring
I
than
don't
ever.
think I realized that was part of that statistic.
Yep.
Interesting.
Reshuffling, people looking to change careers. They're unhappy with their current career, especially those who are in the healthcare field, wanting to get out of healthcare. Number three, relocation. People are no longer having to relocate in order to get a job. It used to be like, hey, we need to hire you, but you have to move to California.
Right.
That's not a thing anymore. And reluctance. People are really, reconsideration is, what am I doing with my life? Is this job fulfilling? Am I able to have family time? And then last but not least, reluctance. People not wanting to come back after COVID-19.
Yeah.
Which is just very interesting to me. I don't know. I did that training on Monday and I was like, that's so neat.
That is neat.
That's neat.
Very neat.
Very neat. Anyway, so just keep that in mind. So with that being in mind, it's where are you finding candidates? Very similar to what we're seeing with the actual hiring downline agents. But just know that like your normal people of like, oh, they have insurance history or they have this, they make a great admin. That can work. But like I said, due to the Great Resignation, there are so many people looking for new and completely different opportunity. So we actually, some of our best employees that we have come from, oh, I went to this restaurant, I went to this gas station, I went to this doctor's office, and I received incredible service from this individual.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them my card and say, if you're looking for a change, call me. Because like we said, like 40% of people quit because they were looking for a change.
Yes.
So just make sure, like, have business cards on you. If you receive excellent service somewhere, give them your business card and don't offer them a job on the spot, but offer them an interview.
Sure. Just recently, actually, some of my coworkers gave the card to the guy that was working a snow cone truck because he was so lovely. He was so nice. He knew, and the personality makes a big difference.
Sure.
It was a snow cone truck, but he seemed to, still be offering really good. It wasn't a throwaway job or anything like that. Just hand him a card. You never know what can come from it, because there's been good employees from this company that have come from like pizza delivery guys and stuff like that. So always keep that in mind. And I think one really important thing to keep in mind with admin staff is sometimes people think of them as just a receptionist, just as like the person that answers phones and stuff like that. Sometimes you look at some of these agencies and the admin staff are the ones that are in charge. You want to get on the admin staff good side. We just talked about this yesterday in a meeting, how important admin staff is, especially over time. They are the gatekeepers. They are the people that allow you to talk to certain clients to talk to the agents and all that sort of stuff. So you want to keep in mind that your admin staff, you're hiring someone that is helping keep, good face for you, because they're the first person a lot of times
they
that
are
they
the
talk
face
to.
of your agency.
Yes, exactly. So never underestimate the power that admin staff can have for the look of your brand, but also just the way that your office runs as a whole.
Which actually brings me to the next point, which is, again, like setting the right expectations. We work with so many people who they have agents because you are an agent. Your mindset is, I make money by signing more applications, right? So you're thinking, if I have an admin staff, I'll make them start doing applications. Understand, administrative people and salespeople have very different mindsets and very different motivators and different risks, being comfortable with different levels of risk. My recommendation and my experience, do not hire a sales or an administrative person with the expectations of them becoming an agent and selling policies for you. I've seen it work out less times than, honestly, in the 10 years I've been doing this, I've seen that actually work out probably less than 5 times.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is that if you set the expectations of, you're my admin person, then you say, okay, you're going to be expected to sell something. Those people tend to be very uncomfortable with that. If they wanted a sales job, they would have gone out and gotten a sales job. And you lose really good people because you didn't set the expectations correctly and they're not comfortable in that market.
Well, yeah. And like you said, they're two completely different jobs. They work in the same office, but they're two completely different things. Their mindsets are completely different. The way their brains work, the way that they function in the office is completely different.
Yes.
For sure.
So making sure that you're setting them, you stick to what I would consider money-making activities, which is the appointments. Let them take care of literally everything else. We'll talk about that here in a little bit about what those expectations and what they can be doing. Now, I have seen a lot of admin people say, after learning the business, learning a little bit, and then they say, you know what, they're making a lot of income by selling. I want a piece of that. Then wonderful. Give them the tools, offer that transition into an agent sales expectations. But the expectations off the bat should not, in my opinion, be you're going to be an agent. Which leads me into, again, I'm going to skip one because it's going to go into training. A lot of agents, we'll come back to what are you offering, but training on this, a lot of agents want their downline to be Medicare experts. And them being a Medicare expert doesn't make you money.
Right.
You're the Medicare expert.
Yeah.
So making sure that training, they need to really, and understanding that training and expectations will really affect your culture. You know what I mean? So making sure that you're training them. I say this, hire people, hire personalities, train the job. So if you train them on truly what the job is, if they have a great personality and great work ethic, you're going to be fine. Don't hire experience. Don't hire tasks, hire personality, train them to do the job.
For sure. And one thing to keep in mind, again, kind of going back to those two different mindsets, you have been doing some of your admin stuff, but you haven't strictly been doing your admin stuff. You have more of a sales mindset. So keep in mind whenever you're training that you are holistically training them and that you're covering everything that you need to, because it might be easy to just be like, okay, and then you'll take care of this and you'll take care of this. And this is kind of how you do it. Blah, 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 go. I got to make money. Make sure that you're holistically training them and make sure that you're kind of getting into their mindset. Okay, if I were them, how would I want to be trained on this? Because you have a different mindset. You have a different goal for your day. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what are you offering? See above, the same demographic is going to be interested in what the same thing that agents are interested in, but making sure that like people who are administrative typically value security over high opportunity for income. So that's like if they wanted a high income opportunity, they'd be agents. They really value that security and knowing that they are going to have an income. So that's really that security is what they're going to value versus opportunity.
For sure.
Opportunity and growth are still very important, but that security is a really big driving factor for the administrative teams.
Yes.
And then last but not least, what tasks are they completing? There is no stop. There is just making sure that it's tasks that align with the expectation. So less sales. So we had on here, what are things that keep you busy? What is something that you find you are doing consistently in your day? So entering drug lists to Medicare Center, checking application statuses on applications you submitted, sending reminder calls and reminder emails about appointments coming up, running your social media, appointment setting, answering the phones, obviously, but that goes without saying. If your administrative staff is only setting appointments and answering the phone, you are grossly underutilizing your administrative staff. Management of your waiting rooms. Again, Sadie mentioned it, they are the face of your agency. So making sure they are supporting your brand and supporting that by managing a hospitable waiting room. Retention activities. And you can even like train them to help people set up dentist appointments. Help people find gems that fit their silver sneakers or renew active memberships. Help people take advantage of the over-the-counter medications. Things that are retention activities that make you more money, but aren't necessarily putting pen to paper. So if you want a full list of what your administrative team can be doing for you, anything that you are doing that does not result in you making more money, AKA you sitting across from a client, admin can do that. Your admin should eventually be able to do anything that's not you sitting in front of a client.
Yeah. Love it.
Either way, if you decide to go administrative or if you decide to go admin, we hit on this before, but just keep in mind, they are an extension of you and they are an extension of your brand. It can do wonders in helping build your brand. It could also be devastating to you and your brand if you don't have the right people who are properly trained. So adding and growing in this capacity is not let's just see how it works. It is a very serious and intensive thing that can either take your agency to that next level or quite literally, not to be dramatic, but just completely demolish the reputation of your agency. So it is no little thing. Please take it seriously. Also, if you're adding administrative staff or if you're adding downline agents, understand that you need to take the focus away from marketing you as an agent and marketing your brand as an agency. If you have administrative staff, but your agents, or excuse me, if you have administrative staff, but your clients will only talk to you, that's not freeing up enough of your time, right? That's not completing that purpose. So when you're saying, I will help you, I will make sure you're on the right plans, I will help you with your claims issues, then whenever your administrative staff is calling them, trying to help them out, they're going to not be as comfortable.
Yes.
Because you've sold you. You've not sold your agency.
Yes. Give confidence to your clients and help with your clients' confidence in the people that you've hired. Talk about them highly. Like you said, make sure you're not saying, oh, I'll help you out. Make sure that you're saying, oh yeah, my great receptionist Paul will be able to like help you. Is receptionist a word anymore that we use?
I think receptionist is so, I think this is a really great point.
It's so 1950s,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it does kind of have a feminine connotation to it whenever a lot of the admin team are male. But true. I think it really puts them in a box. A receptionist answers phones.
Yes.
Your admin team
You're right.
should be doing so much more than answering phones. So we would call them like office management.
Yes.
We have a customer service group that we work with, office administration that we work with, office management. We have experienced coordinators that we've had in there as well. So get creative with those names. I wouldn't use receptionist.
Receptionist, yeah, you're right.
And I don't think I would use admin either.
Scratch that.
Dumb.
Ignore everything.
I don't think I would use administrative either because an average client doesn't know what that means.
So office staff.
Office staff.
That's what you'd say?
My team.
Write that. Office staff.
They're creative.
Yeah.
Just don't do, you can do this and it's great. But like we work with people that have like, oh, she's the director of first impressions. No, you answer a phone.
No.
Anyways, so that's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so that is again what we wanted to talk about today with adding downline versus adding admin. Again, we did keep this very general today, and that is because no two growth plans look the same. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for questions, like run some things past us. If you're okay with other people kind of hearing in on what you're interested in, Sadie and I will stay on. I know we're almost 45 minutes into a webinar, which is like my least favorite thing, but I would love to answer questions that you guys may have about your growth plans or ideas that you've had when it comes to growing, even if it's outside of adding product line, adding downline, and add administrative staff.
Yeah, even things that you expected to be on here, but they weren't on here because maybe they are a little bit more specific than what we wanted to cover today. We would love to hear those things.
Yes. So we'll hang out for a little bit. If you want to ask us about breakfast, I had grapes.
I had coffee as every morning.
You know what I heard, and you know what, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the recording, but here is our contact information. If you're like, I'm a little shy, I want to make sure I just talk to somebody on Agent Resources, or I want to talk to you directly, here is our phone number. That is our website. Go to the university, and we have a ton of training on growth in an agency.
Yes.
We have a training on 6 ways to keep your downline happy, admin staff versus downlines, how to grow your agency with, there's like 7 videos on there about agency growth.
Yes.
So go to the university, check out our agency training, but don't hesitate to give us a call as well.
Yes, absolutely.